What's up, Facebook? Ty Crandall with Credit Suite here, and today we're talking about PPP loan. As a matter of fact, we're going to talk about the actual updates, what you need to know about the Paycheck Protection Program from SBA. Now, we talked about this last week, but there's a big difference. Last week, we had the stimulus bill had been released. Now, SBA has created actual guidelines for the PPP loans, so we now actually know what it takes to get approved for these loans. And today, that is exactly what we are going to cover. Today, we are going to cover exactly what you need to know to get a PPP loan. We're going to talk about what these loans are. We're going to talk about all the changes from last week to this week and what we now know with these loans. We're going to talk about how to get approved. Pretty big deal right now, okay? If you're like most people and you're reading the news and you haven't already got your PPP application in, you're seeing how hard, if not impossible, it is to get the application in. I'm going to talk about solutions to that today as well. We're going to talk about what it takes to get forgiven the loan. A lot of things have changed in the last week since SBA rolled out their guidelines. We're going to talk about how that affects you, what changes they are, when you can apply, when you should apply, what documents you're going to need. Look, a lot of stuff's changed. In the last week, we now have SBA guidelines. As of Sunday, I received them 48 hours ago. That's how long ago they were actually released. So just 2 days ago, we saw SBA guidelines for the first time. And what that means is it means some of the information that's out there all about the world is wrong. Some of the information and assumptions that we have made were not correct. But again, we talked about that when we were actually doing our training, that a lot of things were going to change. Now it's time to talk about the changes. Now we have what we've been waiting for. Steadfast rules and guidelines of exactly what it takes to get these PPP loans. So we're going to talk about today, you're going to know everything from what it takes, who can qualify, how to get approved, how to get your loan app in when you can't get your loan app in, what documents you're going to need, what can be forgiven, what you need to do to get the loan forgiven. Whew, I'm tired. A lot of stuff to go over. Okay, so let's talk about it from the beginning. SBA, 2 loan programs you mainly need to know about. One that's called an EIDL, an Economic Injury Disaster Loan. I'm going to talk about that a little bit at the end. That was the first $50 billion that was released. Those loans are put aside for this newer product called the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program. Now, as we know, over a week ago, bill was released putting $349 billion into the system. Here's where we are. 1 day in, $38 billion was already lent. 1 day in. So that means 10% of the money available was gone in the first day. So what I'm telling you is beyond time sensitive because this money, we predict, will be gone by next week. Which means if you don't have your application in by midweek, end of week today, this week, you are not going to get in on this PPP program. So, Paycheck Protection Program, here's what you need to know. And again, tell me where you're from. Give me some feedback. If I'm on track, let me know. That lets other people know on Facebook that we're here. I always appreciate that. So here's what you need to know. Paycheck Protection Program was released Friday. It was the first day it became available. We just got SBA guidelines as of Sunday. A lot of things have changed. The purpose of the stream is to notify you of everything that has changed and give you every detail you need to get the PPP program. What it takes to get approved, who can apply, how to apply. If you can't get your application in now because the big banks have closed down your application, we're going to talk about exactly what you need to do to get that application in. Everything you need to know about PPP, we're going to promote today. So now let's talk about it. Let's get serious. PPP program, here's what you need to know. SBA, 2 programs. EIDL, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. We'll talk about that in the end. It can very well work for you. We're also going to talk about the PPP program, the Paycheck Protection Program. It is fantastic if you have employees. So let's start with the basics. Who can qualify? Pretty much everybody. If you owned a business before February 15th of 2020, you can qualify for the SBA PPP program. Here are the requirements per SBA guidelines released Sunday. You can need to have 500 employees or less currently. As of February 15, 2020, you needed to be in operation and you need to have at least 1 employee. Now, if you were that employee, it's okay. If the employee was paid on 1099 or W-2, it's okay. But you need to have less than 500 employees and have at least 1 employee as of February 15th, 2020 and be in business by then, even if the employee is paid through 1099 or W-2. You're going to apply to two different ways, whether you are 1099 or W-2. Mark from California, thanks for tuning in. Alex, thanks for promoting on Messenger. No reason to apologize that crashed the stream. That's Mark Zuckerberg's problem, not you. I'll call Mark. And DC says, I'm working on filling out PPP now for my business. The bank wants a ton of extra info. We're going to talk about that as well. We're going to talk about all the extra stuff that banks are asking for that they don't need to ask for. I'm going to give you all the details on this stream, DC, so just hold on a little bit longer. So here's how it works. If you're in business February 15, 2020, you can get approved. One employee at that point, 1099, W-2, doesn't matter how you paid them, you can get approved. You can qualify with less than 500 employees, you're eligible. Who's not eligible? If you defaulted on an SBA loan within the last 7 years, you will not be able to qualify. For example, if more than 20% of the people that own more than 20% of your business that are criminals, felons, incarcerated, etc., you're not going to get approved. Those are about the main disqualifiers that will disqualify you from this program. Mr. Derek Harper, thanks for tuning in. Tracy, what's up? C, what's up? C says, I need to file for 3 businesses. You can't. I'm going to tell you that. The guidelines were just released, and we're going to talk about that because you can't apply now for multiple businesses. You can only apply for one. And Mark says, and they want to know if any shareholder owns any other business. We're going to talk about that all as well. So let's give a rundown. PPP program. You can get approved if you own a business before February 15th if you have less than 500 employees. Let's just say that applies to everybody here. Okay. You can be lent as much as 2.5 times the amount of your average payroll. Here's a big change. Last time we did this live stream, we said you can be approved for as much as 2.5 times the amount of your payroll in 2019. That is no longer the case. It's the last 12 months worth of payroll. If you want to follow along, go to creditsuite.com/PPP. If you go to creditsuite.com/PPP, you're going to get the basics. Full webinar there, full PowerPoint slide deck. You'll be able to get all the additional details. We're going to cover it and just summarize it here so you have the basics that you need to know. So you can be approved for as much as 2.5 times the amount of your average payroll. For example, we add up all your 2019 payroll. We then divide it by 12 to figure out what your average was. We then multiply that times 2.5. That's your average payroll. So you're going to look at the last 12 months worth of payroll, and then what you're going to do is add it all up. Then you're going to divide it by 12 for 12 months in a year. That's your average. Multiply that times 2.5. That's how much you can actually get approved for. Now, this includes all payroll costs. I'm going to show you exactly what payroll costs are instead of listing them all off to you. So this applies to all of your actual payroll costs. And payroll cost, or the sum of your payroll cost, are to include, as you can see here, they include all these things. Salaries, wages, compensation, payments of cash tips, okay, payment for vacation, parental, family, medical leave, allowance for dismissal or separation, payment for the provisions of group health care benefits, retirement benefits, state and local taxes. Those are all the things that are included in payroll costs. And all of those things, you add them all up, and then you multiply times 2.5 times. Now, there is an exception here. Anybody that makes over 100 grand in your organization, you included, then they exclude anything over 100 grand. So when you're figuring out how much your payroll is, if you pay yourself, for example, 150 grand, they're going to exclude 50,000, and 100,000 is what they're actually going to count to those payroll calculations. So now you know who can get approved. You know you can get 2.5 times the amount of your average payroll. So you now know how much you can get approved. Here's the best part. The loan is 100% forgivable. Forgivable means it's basically a grant if you are smart and do things right. And I'm going to teach you how to do this. The whole loan can be forgiven, and here's how it works. First of all, you can get the loan forgiven if you're spending the money 75% or more of the money on payroll within the first 8 weeks after the loan. Let's break this down. Loan is issued to you. Within 8 weeks after that, if you spend 75% or more of the money on payroll, then that money is forgiven. If you spend up to 25% on utilities, on rent, or on interest on a mortgage, that amount is forgiven as well. Okay, so it's 100% forgivable. Here's how you do it. You get the loan. You put it into a separate bank account just for that loan. You use that bank account to pay all of your payroll. And then you use it to pay any utilities you have, your rent, your interest on your mortgage. You use it for all those purposes. Then after that 8 weeks is done, you gather the documentation showing you use it for payroll, your bank statements, your payroll records, etc. You submit it to the bank that issued the loan, and within 60 days, they look at the loan, review it, and approve you for forgiveness. Here's the best part. Your loan payments don't even start for 6 months. So basically, you may never, if you do this right, ever need to make a loan payment. They put the loan payments out 6 months. And within 8 weeks of you getting the loan, if you spent the money on payroll and those utilities I mentioned, the loan's 100% forgivable. So you use the money for payroll, you use it for the utilities and rent and mortgage interest, then you prove to them that you did, and then all of a sudden the whole loan is forgiven. You don't have to pay it back. Now there is a caveat. There is something interesting they added in the guidelines that was not here with the bill. And the caveat is you need to keep your head count the same in your organization. If you have 10 employees, you need to have 10 employees through April 26th. They're going to look at how many employees in your payroll February 15th of this year through April 26th of this year. They're going to look at your head count, how many employees you have. They're also going to look at how much you pay those people, full-time or part-time. You need to maintain those levels. The full or part-time needs to be maintained within 25% of what you've done through April 26th for you to get the full loan forgiven. Let's say you don't. Let's say you lay 2 people off because you need to. What happens? Well, what would happen is that means part of that loan would not be forgiven. We don't yet know how much of the loan wouldn't be forgiven. They haven't said. But part of the loan wouldn't be forgiven. The part that's not forgiven would have to be paid back over 2 years at a 1% interest rate, a change. Last time we talked about how you could have a 0.5% interest. The actual guidelines came out and made it 1%. Now, Steve says, okay, how long do we get to use up the PPP loan? I just mentioned that 8 weeks you have. Steve says, what about business credit card debt? Does that count? In the actual, that's a great question. Because what happened was, and I'm thinking, as I'm answering your question, I'm thinking, because the actual bill said you could use it for the payment of existing debt. But as I'm thinking about it, the actual guidelines did not say that at all, Steve. Great point. That was a change. The guidelines said the money could be used for utilities that you got, that you had open before February 15th, rent and mortgage interest. That's it. Beyond payroll. The actual guidelines from SBA did not allow for payments on existing debt like the bill actually did allow. So great point here. That did change. And DC says, what if we started hiring in August last year? We have over $100,000 in annualized salary, but we didn't pay that much per, these live streams, I have a hard time seeing more. We didn't have that much paying over the last 12 months since August. So what they're going to look at is they're going to look at your payroll average over the last 12 months. It's that simple. They go back 12 months, they add up all your payroll, they divide it by 12 for 12 months, they multiply that times 2.5 times. That's how they actually calculate it. Now, another great question from Laquita. And here's the question. What if I pay by 1099? Here's the catch. We didn't know last week if they were going to let you include 1099 employees. Now we know. 1099 employees must file separately. You must apply this Friday. So if you are a small business, if you are a sole proprietor, you can apply. You should have already applied. If you didn't, you got big problems. And I'll talk to you about that in a minute. If you are a 1099, you can apply as of this Friday. If you want more information to keep up with the main points, creditsuite.com/PPP. If you go to creditsuite.com/PPP, you'll get the main points. You can keep up with what's going on, access my full webinar, access my full PowerPoint, et cetera, et cetera. So we now know you own a business before February 15th, you can get approved. We now know you can get 2.5 times the amount of your average payroll the last 12 months. We now know 100% of the money can be forgiven if you use more than 75% of the funds in the first 8 weeks after the loan is issued on payroll and up to 25% on utilities, rent, and mortgage interest. Here's some other great things you need to know. It is not a guarantee from you. It is non-recourse. It requires no collateral. It requires no personal guarantee. And it is 100% actually backed by SBA. Unlike normal loans with SBA where they go up to 90%, it's 100% backed. Now, Derek says, as a consultant, I'm the only W-2 hires 1099 last year. Then use your own payroll if that is the case, and you are fine, okay? Steve says, we can use the PPP to pay a 1099 contractor person. Yes, you can, but keep in mind, they're not part of your payroll. The 1099 person needs to file separately, and they can file April 10th to be able to get it approved. So let's talk about documents that you need to get approved. Well, let's talk about the big problem. The big problem that's going on right now is this. Pay attention. $349 billion was issued to fund this. So far, as of Monday morning, one day in, $38 billion had been lent. Over 10% of the money was gone in one day. So if you haven't applied, you got to apply now. I've been telling you this again and again and again. We believe that all funds will be gone into next week. That's right. At the current pace, by mid next week, all funds will be gone. Wells Fargo has ceased accepting applications. Bank of America has $32 billion in applications already as of yesterday, as of Monday. That was a day ago, okay, to give you an idea of where we are. The banks aren't accepting your application unless you bank with them. How do you get around this? I'll tell you how we did. We went right through our SBA broker. Not saying you need to, but I'll tell you this. You need to stick with community banks. If you have a smaller community banks, they are the ticket. I've got quotes that I just did in my webinar today from the president that says community banks crushing it right now. Big banks, they're catching up. If you have a relationship with a community bank, a smaller local bank, go through them. They are your best bet. Your second best bet is your own bank. If you can go through your own banker, if they accept applications, if you're with Wells Fargo, you're stuck. If you can't get in the door with those two, somebody said, I'm asked for way more income documentation than I need, or they're just accepting my name and number, they're not even asking for income docs, you got big problems. You want to look at an alternative source. Now, I've given you an alternative source at creditsuite.com/PPP. You might not like it. My SBA broker will handle your EIDL loan. He will get you the $10,000 grant if you're applicable, which almost all of us are. He'll help you with 7A, 504, SBA loans. He'll help you package the PPP loan as well. But he charged me a $2,000 fee. He's going to charge you a $2,000 fee. Not telling you to go that way. Try a community bank first. Try your bank first. But if you realize that you are hitting a brick wall, at creditsuite.com/PPP, we give you the income documents you'll need. You can download that, get your documents together. I don't care who you go through. Download that document and start getting your income docs together if you haven't already. Then you choose. If you deal with a community bank, try them. If you can get it through your own bank, go that route. No upfront fee. That's perfect. Go that route. But if you are hitting a roadblock like so many are, then you can go to our broker. We will refer you to our broker. All we're going to do is take your documents and we're going to send you over and you can talk to him, and he helped us get our loan. He can help you get your loan. But like I said, he charges a $2,000 application fee. You have to be okay with that. If you're not okay with that, you got to try the community bank in your own bank. We have a couple sources who may also help you. They only work with one bank. One charges no app fee. But again, we can't even help you if you don't come in with the necessary income docs. So start there. Let's talk about necessary income docs. If you go to creditsuite.com/PPP, I made a great checklist for all of you. And this checklist shows you what you really need. And this is all you really need. You need a Paycheck Protection Plan application. I went ahead and gave you a way right here to download it. If you click this link in the download, it takes you there. I also got the links to the IRS forms you're going to need. You need an IRS Form 940. That's for your 2019 payroll. You need an IRS Form 941. That's for your 2020 payroll. You're also going to have to get together a 2019 payroll report, a monthly payroll report to show the number of employees and their wages, a driver's license for your identity, and a voided check of where you want the money to go. My advice, set up a separate account so it's easy to track what you're using that money for. That's it. That's the only docs that you really need. Okay, and again, if you go to creditsuite.com/PPP, okay, that is going to give you a link where you can download that documentation list. Get together the docs. I don't care who you apply with. I'm telling you what they're going to actually need to process the loan. If you haven't got it together, get that together right away so you have that stuff together. If you run into a roadblock with your bank, you need to make decisions. Are you going to keep holding and wait and see what happens with the money, or are you going to take action and go now? If you want to take action, we can hook you up with our SBA broker. No big deal. You just fill out the form at creditsuite.com/PPP. After you get your income docs together, we'll refer you to that broker. A lot more to cover, but I want to make sure that I answer your questions, and I'm getting a lot of questions, so I want to make sure that I can come in and get these answered really quick. So anybody that has a question can get it answered. Okay, Josh says, I have Citibank and it's not up and running. Other banks only taking their own customers. I gave you a hack there, a way to get through to our broker as well, if that helps you. Go to creditsuite.com/PPP, get together your income docs, fill out the form. Our team will get in touch with you. We'll take your docs. We'll send you to our broker. That's how the program works, and we'll let you take it with them from there. Do you have to apply from a bank or go straight through SBA website? You can't go through SBA's website. You need to go through a bank. I would try a community lender first. Exactly, and I bank with Wells Fargo. I'm sorry. You know what happened with Wells Fargo? Let me give you an inside tip. SBA, Wells Fargo got in big trouble for creating fake bank accounts last year, right? Well, they got penalized and they have a $10 billion cap. Within the first day, they had enough applications to eat up their $10 billion. So if you're with Wells Fargo, that's what happened, and that's why they can no longer accept applications. Derek says, who's getting the funds when none has been approved or apps taken? Most have been stuck. That's the problem. That's why, again, guys, look, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'll tell you what I did. I paid my broker $2,000, and he got my app in to get us approved. That's what I did. Okay, I didn't even bother with my bank. I just went the route because he knows what he's doing. I can't speak to that. That's a lot of money to a lot of people, and a lot of people might not want to pay the money. They might want to deal with the big banks and wait in line. I don't blame you there. Save the money and do that if you can. But there are other alternatives. That's just what I did. Unfortunately, I said this last week, the big banks are going to collapse under the pressure here, and that's a lot of what we've seen actually happening. DC says, how will we need to prove the money was spent on payroll? Okay, so here's what happens. You get the money. Within 8 weeks, you need to spend at least 75% of it on payroll for that to be forgiven. Here's how you'll do it. You're going to get together the actual payroll records. You're going to get together your bank account. You're going to get together any receipts for utilities. You're going to submit that to the bank that ends up giving you the loan to prove that you actually had that money paid towards that. This is why I'm saying give them a separate bank account. Get a voided check for a separate bank account if you can, because you might not have time to get a voided check for a brand new bank account. You should, because they give you those initial checks. So if I were you, I would set up a bank account immediately, get a voided check for that new bank account, have all your funds go into that bank account. Use that bank account only to pay your payroll and then pay utilities and pay rent and mortgage out of that, mortgage interest out of that, and then get all your statements, get your payroll records. You'll submit all of that to actually get that money forgiven. Credit unions are great. They're better than banks because they're not bogged down right now. C says, what if you don't have all your docs? Get them together. You need to get them together right now. You don't even have a job today. Your entire job is to get these docs together. Guys, I don't know how to explain this. $38 billion was lent in 24 hours. There's $349 billion available. Literally, we are on track in the first 10 days to have all the money gone. And what's happening is we have over 177,000 applications are in with Bank of America right now. 177,000 as of yesterday. You got to get in line right now or you're not going to have any chance of getting this first round of funding. And we have no evidence that there'll be another round of funding. Derek says NAV has been taking apps. Will that be a mistake in the long run? We'll see. I'll tell you what, if I'm applying with NAV, I'm applying everywhere. Here's how you know. When they took an application, did they ask you for income docs? Think about it. If they submitted an application and you gave them income docs, they have a full file they can submit for approval. If you filled out an application on Wells Fargo or NAV or anywhere else where you didn't actually submit documents, they didn't submit an actual loan. They have no loan to submit. You're just placing an inquiry to tell them you're interested in applying. You can't actually physically apply until you supply the documents there. So if you applied at NAV and they didn't ask for income docs, you better be applying at the places we're talking about today. Your own community bank, credit union, your own bank. Go through my broker. It doesn't matter. Apply somewhere else if they didn't actually ask you for income docs. Oquita says, is the application fee up front? Yes, for him it is. And he's not for everybody. Okay, trust me, $2,000 is a lot of money to a lot of people. If you don't want to pay my guy to handle your EIDL loan and your PPP loan and get your $10,000 grant, don't do it. But I'm just telling you what we did in making my own personal source available to you. That's it. So he does charge up front for any SBA loan that he's actually working with. Can we reactively or retroactively file the 941? You can't. In order to apply, you need those two IRS docs, the 941 and the 940. Tiffany says, I'm a new business owner with no payroll and no business bank account. Where can I get in on all this? You can't get in on PPP. If you had an economic hardship, you need to apply for the EIDL. And if you go to disasterloan.sba.gov, you can apply for the EIDL loan. That's where you want to go if you don't have any payroll, okay? So, P says Jacksonville, Florida. Welcome, Jacksonville. And Shiva says, hey, Ty, I'm a credit repair attorney. We met at CreditCon. Hey, that's cool. Can we get affiliate commission from Credit Suite? Yes, you can. Tomorrow on YouTube, we are doing a webinar for business loan brokers of how you can actually make money and you can help other people. If you are coming in and you are actually supplying people For financing, actually, let me put it this way. You can make money with us as a partner on business credit and financing. You can also make money with us as an affiliate. If you go to creditsuite.com/affiliate, you can sign up for free, refer customers for business credit and or financing, and get paid there as well as helping other people. And we will take care of your customers. Okay, I have once we complete the SBA application, what is the next step? Wait. You wait. Unless, I don't know. Look, my SBA broker tells me what to do, when to do it. Okay, I work with really smart people and I just listen to what they tell me to do. It's how I've got where I've gotten in business. So I wait and do what he tells me to do. But if you've applied with your bank with the full documentation, everything you need, I would contact your banker and try to get them on the phone, or sit and wait. Or try to apply at multiple places. If you can, try to apply at multiple places so you have the best chance of getting in. That's not a bad idea as well. P says, I have a business and my wife has a business, but we can share the same address. Can we both apply? Yes. So here's SBA's rule, and I talked to you about this. I touched upon it, but I didn't expand. SBA, with their guidelines, said only one PPP loan per person. If you own 2, 3, 4, 5 businesses, last week we thought you could get multiple loans. SBA's guidelines say no more. One loan per person. That's all you're going to be able to get. Okay, Alicia, and Keith says, hey, I can help with the affiliate program. Keith Knapp is on here. He runs our affiliate program. You can go to creditsuite.com/affiliate, and Keith will help you once you're set up, get going. Okay, what is going on with the EIDL loans? Okay, let's talk about this. SBA released 2 loan programs. The first they released is called an EIDL, an Economic Injury Disaster Loan. Loans up to 30 years. Okay, loans up to $10 million. We don't know, it's based on your revenue and amount of hardship, but we don't know how to calculate how much. Interest rate of 3.75% for profit companies, 2.75% for nonprofit companies. You need collateral if the loan amount's over 25 grand, but they won't turn down the loan if you don't have collateral. You need to meet normal SBA requirements per SBA. That means you need to have pretty good personal credit, 620 FICO or higher, and you have to have business credit established. Look, if you don't have business credit established, shame on you. I've been telling you guys for months and years that business credit is going to help you get through something like this. Give us a ring, 877-600-2487, 877-600-2487, or at least grab our guide, creditsuite.com/EIN, and start building your business credit. You have to have some established business credit before your EIDL application can be approved. Your score won't be high enough to get it, but that's okay. Because what's happening with EIDL loans is they got set aside. Right now, SBA is focusing solely on PPP loans. Once they get through these, then they'll come back to these economic injury disaster loans I just touched upon. That gives you time to get your business credit established, but I can't say enough. You cannot qualify for an economic injury disaster loan if you don't have business credit. You won't have a FICO SBSS score high enough. It's just the way that SBA's underwriting requirements have always worked. So if you need help building business credit to get the EIDL, go to 877-600-2487, creditsuite.com/Facebook. And if you go to creditsuite.com/Facebook, you can grab a free guide that makes it easy for you to map out the steps to at least get started and build some initial business credit. And again, creditsuite.com/PPP. My broker can also help with EIDL. He can get you the $10,000 grant. He can help you with PPP. He can help you with all of those SBA programs. Okay, Lawrence says, can EDI be applied on SBA website? Yes. You can get the EIDL directly from the Treasury because the money doesn't come from SBA. It comes from the Treasury. You can get it at disasterloan.sba.gov. You can fill that out, and when you apply, there's a box you check to get the $10,000 grant. Again, creditsuite.com/PPP if you want to use my broker to help, or go directly there to get the EIDL. John says, if you're an LLC and the only person in the company is yourself, are you eligible? You absolutely are eligible. But I would apply for EIDL and PPP because EIDL might be better. Now, here's the catch, and I didn't add this. You can roll in EIDL to PPP. So remember, I told you with the Paycheck Protection Program, you can get as much as 2.5 times the amount of your payroll. But it's actually 2.5 times the amount of your average payroll plus any balance you have on an EIDL loan. So if you already got the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, that can be forgiven as well because they roll that into the PPP loan. Yolanda says, do they guarantee the loan for $20,000? You don't offer a personal guarantee. SBA offers 100% guarantee on the loan. Hopefully that makes sense. Steve says loans are never taxable, but since these will be forgiven, Does the money then become taxable 2020 income? I'm not an accountant and I cannot answer that question. I believe the answer is no. My advice, ask an accountant, because I don't like to answer questions I'm not 100% certain of. I'm not 100% certain on that one. So that's what I think, and that's where I would go to get the solid answer. What documents are needed for self-employed? Okay, what you need for self-employment is any of your 1099. And again, guys, I went ahead and put up at creditsuite.com/PPP the exact documents that you'll need, including the IRS forms that you'll need are right here, 940 and 941. Okay, and that will account for any payroll, and you're also going to need payroll records of what you paid those 1099 employees. So hopefully that answers that question. Okay, Laquita says, let me go ahead and pay him this if it's guaranteed. Well, look, go give him a call, or actually get together your income docs. See how it goes on your own, okay, and then go from there. If you can get it approved on your own, you're good. But if you run into problems, my guy has been nothing but successful with our clients, and he got us approved as well. So if that helps you, that's all I can do is give you the advice that we actually use ourselves. Can you please send me a link for the seminar? Okay, creditsuite.com/PPP. If you go to creditsuite.com/PPP, you'll get a link to our webinar we did covering all of this, and our actual PowerPoint slide deck is where there as well at the bottom of that page under additional resources. Laquita says the EIDL loan says they are taking up to 3 weeks to contact you back. Yes. And it's even worse now because EIDL got pushed aside. They're processing all PPP applications first, then they'll get to EIDL loans. Willie says no business at the time, but thanks for MLA. Hey, Willie, that's okay. Start building business credit. creditsuite.com/Facebook. And even startups, one of the most popular programs that we see right now is called our credit line hybrid. Here's how it works. You can get up to $150,000 in credit line hybrid. So you get 0% interest for up to 18 months that you get with credit cards. You can also write checks and get cash out against them, which makes them the equivalent of a credit line. You need a 680 FICO score or a guarantor that does, family member, friend, investor. And if you get that, you can get approved for up to $150,000 in credit lines. Here's what we've seen in the business lending world. Revenue lending, lending that's based on your revenue, has obviously contracted. It's paused right now. It's very tough to get that money unless you have a really solid business with good credit scores and increasing revenue, which very few have right now. If you have collateral, stocks, bonds, 401ks, IRAs, inventory, equipment, purchase orders, account receivables, you can get 5% interest rate credit lines using all of that. And you can also use your personal credit with a 680 FICO or higher of you or a guarantor and get up to $150,000 in credit lines. All you have to do is give us a call to get approved for that. 877-600-2487. That's our number. So if you want to get approved for credit lines up to $150,000 based on personal credit only, 680 FICO score, or you are a guarantor, give us a call. If you want help building your business credit and getting high limit revolving accounts for your EIN not linked to your social, give us a call. We can help you with all of that as well. There's a lot of funding available, but this is how I see it broken down. Any loans based on revenue are paused or halted. Any loans based on collateral are still going well. Everything's great there. Any credit lines or credit being issued is still going well as well. So our unsecured program where you can get up to $150,000 no-doc credit lines. Corporate credit for your EIN that's not linked to your social. That money is flowing like it's always flown. There's no delay. There's nobody pulling back. That's still readily available. So if we can help you with any of that, give us a ring at 877-600-2487. Josh says, how can I get the application and a phone number to reach you? Our phone number is 877-600-2487. If you want the actual application, go to creditsuite.com/PPP. There I have something that says documentation needed. You can download the actual list of documents right there, and that list of documents has the IRS forms and the application you're going to need for PPP as well. Okay, Alicia says, what is a business credit score called? Well, there's 3 business credit scores. They're offered from Dun & Bradstreet called Paycheck score. There's also Experience, which is called IntelliScore. There's Small Business Risk Score from Equifax. Each one of the reporting agencies has about 5 scores, but that's the main name for the score of each one of them. Okay, and Josh says, how can I speak to your broker? You can't unless you have income docs together. It's that simple. Guys, you can imagine what's happening. He's dealing with over 50 applications a day right now that come in with full income docs. It's that simple. So all you have to do is go to creditsuite.com/PPP, get together the documents that you need. Once you get together the documents, there's a simple form you fill out. We then will contact you. We'll get all your information to them, and you can talk to their team without any kind of issue there. Andrea says, so this is a loan that does not have to be repaid. Correct. Here, let's go over this again. It is 100% forgiven if within 8 weeks of getting the loan, you use the money 75% or more to pay your payroll expenses, and you pay up to 25% for utilities, rent, and interest on mortgages. If you do that, 100% of that money can be forgiven. Yolanda says, I'm sorry, I meant when we pay the broker the $2,000, does that guarantee the $10,000 loan? It doesn't, but when you talk to them before you ever pay them the $2,000, they'll tell you that. And the EIDL, the $10,000 grant is a given. I've seen nobody have a problem getting that approved. But before you ever pay them any money, you can ask them that question. But again, I've never seen anybody have an issue getting that $10,000 loan. James says, what do you all charge, or what's y'all's percent? We don't. On the SBA PPP loans, we don't deal with SBA loans. We refer them to an actual broker that helps. And that broker, if you want to go through our SBA broker, is a $2,000 application fee that will come off the back end. So you're going to pay it on the back. It'll come out of your back end money anyways. Excuse me. You have to pay it up front, but you won't pay that extra because that gets reduced from the fee on the back end. But again, you can go to a community bank. You can go to your bank. They're not going to charge you. But if you have a hard time getting in, then you might want to consider our broker at creditsuite.com/PPP. He handles your EIDL loan. He handles your $10,000 grant. He handles your PPP. He handles all of those the same as he's handled them all for us. Cruz says, elaborate on rolling the EIDL into PPP. Are there two separate loans? Will the EIDL hurt the amount loaned into PPP? No. So if you have an EIDL, this is what happened. $50 billion was dumped into SBA through a loan called Economic Injury Disaster Loan, EIDL. That was the first loan that came out. Then the PPP loan came out. If you have an EIDL loan now, they will take your PPP calculation, 2.5 times your average payroll is how much you could be lent. They will add in your EIDL balance, and 100% of that money can be forgiven. So it will not hurt you if you apply for both, but if you get the EIDL, they'll just roll that into the PPP loan so it's forgiven. Joe says, if the EIDL is rolled into the PPP, does that create a conflict? Because the fact that the law says they cannot both be used for payroll during the same covered period. And if the EIDL is rolled into the PPP, then it's not forgiven. It converts into the 2 years. It doesn't. So the EIDL can also be converted, or it can also be used to pay. If you get the EIDL rolled into the PPP and you're using 75% of those proceeds to pay payroll, even the EIDL can be forgiven if you're conforming to what we just talked about with up to 75% of the funds being used to pay payroll. Hopefully that answers your question. Mr. David Freeze, my mentor's on here. I gotta shape up here. I gotta get myself together. So Cruz says, I've heard only if you have a contractual, I don't know what just happened there. A contractual agreement with that contractor as opposed to a worker, that will not work. So you can't. You have to have somebody on your payroll, okay? So that means you need to have somebody 1099 or W-2 showing on your payroll. If you just have a contract or an agreement with them, that's not going to work. And 1099 employees apply on their own as of this Friday, whereas small business owners that are not 1099 can already apply. Is it too late to get an EIN number? It's not. You've got to set up your business first. Once you set up your business with your Secretary of State, go to irs.gov and you can get your EIN number for absolutely no cost. And Tanisha says, what if you have an EIN but no business bank account and I'm still eligible for EIN? If you show a hardship, in order to get the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, you have to show some kind of hardship. You have to show that your revenue or sales decreased, your expenses increased. If you can prove those things, then yes, you can get the EIDL. Remember, you need to supply a voided check for PPP because they're just going to put that money right in your bank account. And Gama says, I already filed through SBA.gov and they gave me a confirmation number. Does that mean I'm okay? What did you file through SBA.gov? You can't apply for the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. It can only go through the Treasury, and you can't apply through SBA for the PPP either. So the question is, what did you file through them? Because you can't do either of those. EIDL goes through the Treasury at disasterloan.sba.gov, and the PPP has got to go through a broker, banker, or agent, so you can't do that through SBA. So if you can give me more details, I can answer that question. So let's give a quick summary here so everybody knows exactly where we are. The Paycheck Protection Program, you can get approved if you owned a business before February 15th, 2020. okay? And you have less than 500 employees and you had at least one employee, including yourself, as of that date. If you haven't applied, you need to apply now. Over $38 billion was issued the first day. There's only $349 billion. They're on track to lend all the money within the first 10 business days that this thing is out. To give you some other crazy stats, Wells Fargo has completely ceased accepting applications. Bank of America, one day in, had accepted $32 billion in applications. The money is going quick for this program. 100% of the money can be forgiven if within 8 weeks after getting the money, you show, or within 8 weeks after getting the money, you've used over 75% of that money to pay your payroll expenses. And we talked in the beginning about what payroll expenses were, and 25% on utilities, rent, and interest on mortgages. 100% of the money can be forgiven. If you decrease headcount, the number of employees you have, or the number of, or reduce full-time workers to part-time, part of the money might not be forgiven, and in that case, it's got to be paid back over 2 years at a 1% interest rate, okay? So 100% guaranteed by SBA, no personal guarantee from you, no collateral needed from you, non-recourse loan, no low payments for 6 months. So you could get this loan, use the money to pay your payroll, prove that you did that, and 100% of the loan can be forgiven. If you already got an economic injury disaster loan, they will roll that into this loan on top of the 2.5 times your payroll. How much money can you get? 2.5 times your average payroll. Look at the last 12 months of your payroll, add them up, divide it by 12 for 12 months, multiply it times 2.5. That's how much money you can actually be lent for the program. If you're running into issues getting approved, here's the pecking order. Go through a community bank first if you deal with one. Go through your credit union second if you deal with one. Go through your bank third if you deal with one. If you hit roadblocks with any of those and all of those, you can use my SBA broker. He charges you $2,000. He charges me $2,000 when he works on any kind of my SBA files. If you want to work with my guy, feel free to get with him. creditsuite.com/PPP. You're going to have to get together your income docs. Once you have that done, you fill out a form and we'll connect you directly with them. Income docs you need. Here they are. You're going to need a PPP application. If you go to creditsuite.com/PPP, you'll see that you can download this checklist and take it with you. Paycheck protection application. I gave you a link to click to get it. Form 940. This is for your 2019 taxes, payroll. 941, this is for your 2020 payroll. You can click here and click here to download those from the IRS. I saved you the time. You're going to want to get together the 2019 payroll report, monthly payroll report, showing your number of employees and their wages, your driver's license to prove your ID, and a checking account, a voided check to put the actual money in the bank account. Now, they're going to ask some questions. How many employees you had as of February 15th? What was your total payroll cost for last year? Okay, have you ever had one of these EILD loans? But everything you need is on that, and it's all at creditsuite.com/PPP. Don't forget, EIDL is also available, Economic Injury Disaster Loan. You can get that loan as well. If you don't have payroll, but your revenue dropped off, your expenses increased, your sales dropped off, you can get the EIDL loan, and when you apply, they'll let you apply for a $10,000 grant as well. If you want to do that, you can go direct to the Treasury at disasterloan.sba.gov and apply. If you don't want to deal with paperwork and the nightmare of applying on your own, go through my broker if you want to. creditsuite.com/PPP. That's how we got our application done. It's where I'm sending all my friends, okay? And it's where I'm sending my family as well. So if you want it done and my guy can help you, then go there. He's going to charge $2,000 up front to work on any SBA loan, okay? But he'll help you with EIDL, he'll help you with the $10,000 grant, he'll help you with PPP, he'll help you with everything else. If he can provide value, that's how we got ours done, okay? And that's where I'd recommend that you actually go. Okay, David says, what if you don't have a social, only have an EITN for yourself? Good question. Not sure about that. Depends at the bank level. They're going to have to verify your identity and that you are actually resident aliens, I think, are now able to get this. So if you have a TIN, you still should be able to apply even if you don't have a social. I'm not 100% positive. And the reason I'm not 100% positive is the guidelines do not say anything about that at all. I can only tell you what the guidelines say because I read them. I read the whole bill. I read the guidelines. I know everything that's said there. But this was not addressed in the bill or the guidelines. But from what I've heard, they're now accepting resident aliens. So even if you don't have a social and you have a TIN, you can apply. It's scary, guys. Resident aliens can get it. And here's what's even more scary. Franchisees can now get it. How many McDonald's franchises do you think there are in the country? So this is why this money is going so quick, because they're opening it up to more and more people. DC says, what type of business credit card do you say was required for SBA to even get approved? EIDL requirements are that you must meet normal SBA credit requirements. Normal SBA credit requirements are a 620 FICO score and a 140 FICO SBSS score. You cannot have a FICO SBSS score unless you've built business credit. If you need help building business credit, give us a ring. We can help you get very high limit accounts right now, regardless of your cash flow, regardless of your credit, regardless of your collateral. So if you want to access as much money as you can right now, give us a ring. We also have credit lines up to $150,000 that are no doc that you can get in about 2.5 weeks that you require a 680 FICO score from you or a guarantor. Give us a call. We can help you with those as well. Again, in summary, loans based on revenue don't exist right now. Credit cards still readily available. So building corporate credit for your EIN that's not linked to your social is a really good idea right now. And also, so is getting credit lines that's linked to your personal social, because you can get up to 150 grand to help get yourself through this at 0% credit lines. So that's a great program that can work for you as well. Cruz says, what if one has a personal SBA disaster loan from 2018? Any issues with applying for the disaster loan? No, there is not. The guidelines do not restrict that. So what was the $10,000 SBA grant called? I applied last week. I do not know if it has a particular name or not. I've never seen it named anything. But typically, people are getting it approved in about 36 hours if you applied directly with SBA or a broker that did the application for you. Cruz, what if one has a pre-approved? Okay, we already talked about that. Okay, lastly, I applied for the EIDL for the $10,000 advance last Tuesday, and they said 3 days, you'll receive it. Still waiting. I can't account for that. Again, guys, this is why I use a broker, because I don't have to ask these questions. He gets me that loan, but I can tell you that I don't even know who to contact. I would reapply for the $10,000 grant. The $10,000 grant was available for 36 hours, but again, there's only $17 billion allotted for that, so it's going to go quick. So I would apply again if it took you more than 36 hours. I called Washington. They told me everything very efficient. Yeah, well, that's good. If you got the luck with Washington, then good luck. Or I'm glad that went well. Do the tax forms need to be filed? What about the starting payroll this January? No, they don't have to be filed, but you have to fill out a 940 and a 941 IRS form. I put those at creditsuite.com/PPP for you. Mark says, want the $150,000 no-doc credit line. If you want $150,000 in no-doc credit lines, it's based on personal FICO. If you are a guarantor, give us a ring, 877-600-2487. We will help you get that. Look, I can't tell you enough. That's still available, and I don't know how long. Every single week that I'm teaching, more and more and more and more funding goes away. It becomes harder and harder and harder and harder for business owners to get money outside of SBA. If you have collateral, you can still get financing. In this moment, you can still get business credit. You can still get credit lines up to $150,000 on personal credit. Credit is still flowing freely, but I can't tell you that that's going to continue because I really have no way of knowing. But I can tell you, get in right now and get any kind of credit line or any kind of business credit you can, because weeks and months down the road, we'll know how that may change. Okay, Judy says online filing for trade names and trade line filing 2 to 3 weeks. Yeah, this isn't the time to be filing for a new business and expecting that to happen quickly, but you don't need to file the IRS forms. You just need to fill them out and submit. And Judy says, what am I applying for on Secretary of State website? That's only if you're setting up a new business. So if you're setting up a new business, you would start with your Secretary of State. Say that you want to set up a new business. It's worded differently with every state. Once you get your actual corporation documents, then you can go to irs.gov and file for your free EIN. Only go to irs.gov or people will try to charge you and you never need to pay a dime for that EIN. Okay, and Garrett says, Ties man, thank you very much. Okay, guys, I'm going to wrap this up. I've already given you a lot of summaries here, so I'm going to go ahead and close this out. If you want to get the PPP loan, go to creditsuite.com/PPP. On there, I have a summary of all the things that are the most important. At the very bottom, I have additional resources. There, I give you about an hour-long presentation that maps out way more detail, all the specific details, quotes from the president, a look at everything that's going on with how money's being lent right now, what banks are not lending money, how many applications have been filled out. All of that's there, and I give you my slide deck. I actually give you my slides as well at creditsuite.com/PPP. If you're having a problem with your bank, your credit union, you're in line, you thought you submitted an application and you didn't supply income docs, and you want the fastest path forward, I can only tell you what I did. And what I did was use my own SBA broker. He handles our EIDL. He handled our $10,000 grant. He handled our PPP loan. He handled our last 7A loan. He does all my SBA stuff. He charged me $2,000 up front. He charges you $2,000 up front to work on any SBA program. Not saying you should do that. A lot of people are asking me what I did. That's what I did. I used my own SBA guy. That's where I'm sending my family. It's where I'm sending my friends. If that helps you, great. Even if it doesn't, that's okay. You have another alternative source if you get stuck. creditsuite.com/PPP. Download the document guide on the documents you need. Get them together. That's what, wherever you applied, that's where they're going to need those documents. And guys, you don't have a lot of time. Keep an eye on the news and see how much money's lent day after day. This money's going pretty quick, and they're on track for all the money to be lent out within 10 business days. So we have until about next week before we're thinking all this money's going to go away, which means you maybe have through tomorrow or Thursday to even get your application in to have any chance of getting in on this first round of funding, and we don't know if there's going to be more. Judy says, can I get an EIN without trademark filing? You don't have to file for a trademark, but you have to file for an entity. You have to have an actual entity set up, like a corporation, an LLC, a partnership. You have to have your entity set up first. And Mark says, Ty, it's awesome. And answering your phones, are you answering phones today? We are. But if we don't answer the phone, just leave a voicemail. Guys, you understand what's happening in our world, right? We're trying to help a lot of people right now. And so if you hit our voicemail, just leave a message. What you'll find is that our team actually gets a missed call as a ticket in their inbox, and it goes to 2 teams. So we take missed calls very seriously. If we miss a call, leave a voicemail. We'll call you back. Even if you didn't leave a voicemail, I'm going to tell you a secret. We'll still call you back because we still call everybody back that we missed a call. Just be patient. When I do a live stream like this, I'll have 1,000, 1,500 people on here. Now, Facebook, when it's all said and done and closes out. I just did a YouTube, another 1,000 people. So when I do these, unfortunately, I could potentially have 500 people calling at the same time. Just be patient. Leave a voicemail. My team will call you right back. You can also go to info@creditsuite.com. Send us an email, and we will help you. And remember, on the PPP loan, everything you need is at creditsuite.com/PPP. And Jamie said, or I'm sorry I pronounced it. That's Jamil says, I'm sorry I mispronounced your name. Is there a replay of this on live? Yes. If you go to facebook.com/creditsuite, you can see a replay of this. If you go to creditsuite.com/PPP, then you can also see our YouTube live, and you can download our slide deck with all the details that you need. And don't forget, if you have questions, if you want to get approved for the $150,000 in credit lines, if you want to build business credit, give us a ring. We're available, 877-600-2487, 877-600-2487. And Angela says, I'm a 1099 contractor. Do I need to wait till Friday? Yes. No applications will be filed for or will be accepted for 1099 contractors until April 10th. Which is this Friday. Any other questions, give us a ring. Otherwise, go to creditsuite.com/PPP. Everything you need about the Paycheck Protection Programs there, including the document list that you'll need of documents and the form you can fill out to get to my broker that can help you if you get stuck along the way. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.